back.
Yeah. So JB, this is our first podcast together, and maybe the first of many. So
Yeah.
basically, on this podcast, we want to be talking about business and technology. So I'm a software engineer now doing software consultancy. You're also a software engineer as well. And yeah, probably people would like to know more about us, I would assume, but we can start with you, JB. What are your names and why are you here?
Yes, thank you, Martin. I'm called Moke John Baptist. Those are my original names. And the brand name that people came to know me most is JB Web Developer. That time I I looked for that name when I was so much excited when I was starting
Mm.
my programming time back in 2020. So maybe I would talk a brief about how I got into programming, and maybe most people can just like know more about me.
Okay. So you started your programming in 2020.
Yeah.
Well, how what brought you to programming?
So briefly back in I think back in at campus after doing my agro-processing engineering course, I first went to Nairobi. Actually, after the course, I did start a company that failed terribly, by the way.
Mm.
It was an agro-based company, and
Yeah.
that company it failed due to a number of reasons, and I learned a lot from that company failing. And one of the things why it failed was there are two big things I learned from that was that businesses which are product based, like physical product based, they rely more
Yeah.
on capital. You really need to
Yeah.
have capital to manufacture, things people can look at. Let's say, for instance, our company that time was manufacturing agro-based um, machineries. For instance, maize mills, these juice machines, popcorn machines. So the first problem was we lacked funding to really buy materials and buy all these things that were required to process. And the
Yes.
second thing was the skill. At that time, I was so good in modeling, like SolidWorks and Solid Edge, so I was good
Yeah.
into doing that. And but coming to really doing the welding work, doing the actual work that was required for the job, I was really not that so much conversant. So after the company failed back in 2019, um, I went to Nairobi, and I went to Nairobi not to study computer engineering or software engineering. I went to Nairobi basically to improve my skills, because in Nairobi those people are really good when it comes to manufacturing. But after reaching there, I struggled a lot. First of all, getting a job, and even catching up with the manual work that was into like welding, doing all that mechanical work. I was thinking like I am a person who like thinking, like solving, bigger problems. And here I was like almost like a robot. I was just like welding, doing these things. Something was
Mm.
missing. And computer back in at the university, computer was something I was using as something to solve my problems. I was so
Yeah.
good that I used to install Windows. I used to do very good at Microsoft. I used to help so many people to fix some issues in a computer. So when I
Yeah.
went to Nairobi and things became so hard, I remember going to a certain cafe and I was going to print my CV there. And I noticed something. When I reached at the cafe, I went and I typed my CV. I did whatever I was doing, but I noticed a problem in that cafe. They had a lot of computers which were not working. They had a good number of machines, like about 8 machines that were all there. They were not working. The cafe was really big, and it came to my mind. I was like, this is what I was doing at campus. I was like, how comes all these machines are not working? So at the end of the day, I talked to the owner of the cafe. The next day I came and I told him, you are having a lot of inefficiencies. The time I was here, I saw you copying movies from one machine. I saw you printing from each individual machine. So basically, I offered him, tell him that I can improve something on his cafe, and basically I was looking at connecting a LAN network for his computers and also
Yeah.
connecting his printer to the LAN network. And
Yeah.
then I was like, I told him I can also look at your computers. Maybe we can fix them. And he was like, but I'm not employing. Currently, I'm not employing. I told him, no, you don't have anything to lose. Actually, I'm also not looking for a job, but I just like saying, like, I can just do for you these things. If you like,
Yeah.
you can pay me. If you don't like, you don't need to really do anything. He's like,
Yeah.
okay, so when are you starting? I was like, right now. So
Yeah.
to cut the story short, I fixed all those machines. By the time I finished fixing, like installing Windows, everyone was looking at me like, this person who is so much advanced, like, where did you know all these things? Did you do like masters in IT or what? I was like, no, no. These are like the things I just have been doing like on daily basis at campus. So I'm really okay with them. And
Yeah.
it hit me so hard because I did the work for about like 6 hours. I was not feeling anything, like I'm struggling to think of what I'm supposed to do. Like, in engineering, when you are given like a task, you need to make a lot of research to remember some things. Like, I came to realize like computer was something like I really find it very easy. Like, it is very easy for me to work. So to cut also to fast forward, I kept on that cafe for about a year. So I found myself the whole of 2019 actually on that
Mm.
cafe. But my
So
plan actually
you used to go
was,
to that cafe every day. You used to go
yes,
to that cafe.
yes, yes.
What are
I,
you doing in that cafe every day?
so on the cafe, and I was telling you now, I came with new skills. First of all, I was good in Adobe Suite. I was good in Microsoft. I was good in. I had a lot of things I was just like very good at, and these people are only doing printing. They're doing only
So you were
printing,
training.
and
You
yeah,
were training people.
yeah. I
That's all.
started
Yeah, you
tra-
were training.
I started training people in Microsoft. I started teaching people in how to install Windows. I was installing Windows. Those are the services we are providing, installing Windows, working on reports. So I brought in a list of new services. And the owner of the cafe was so happy. We moved I think our finances, I found him making about 10,000 Kenyan money per day. We moved to about 40 to 50 per day. We started like making a lot of money.
Yeah.
So in 2019, I was good at that. So I was like so good, and I was like not planning even to continue ahead because my plan was I had not applied to go to China for my masters in agriculture. I wanted to go to do masters in agriculture. I was like, okay, let me
Mm.
just like pass some time here, get some money. By the time I go to China, I have some money to maybe to take me there and keep me upkeep. So
Yeah.
in 2020, COVID hit, and China, of course, was the first place to be affected. So I was not going
Yeah.
anywhere. So during that time, by the end of 2019, I was like, okay, I'm good at Adobe, I'm good at all these things, but I wasn't getting something that is really, really utilizing all my potential. I'm a person with a lot of ideas, and I like really something which is having some logic. I like logic, me personally. So I was
Yeah.
feeling like I'm underutilized. So I was looking for ways online. How can I make money online? How can I do different things online? And one day, during that time when I came back in 2020, I landed on programming. Actually, it was HTML. So my first day when I did HTML, I was so much excited, my friend. Like so much
Okay.
excited. And that 2020 I will never forget. That year was life changing for me, to be sincere.
Okay.
Because after doing the HTML, and I discovered how I like to continue doing this because it was really a bit challenging. But then I even continued searched about like programming at large, and I looked at the potential of what you can become and how you can solve anything with programming. And having also the knowledge that I had started like a product, a business, and I failed at it because of capital. And for
Yes.
programming, I don't need anything. I need internet, and I can create unlimited products I want. I can create anything I
Yeah.
want, and I'm not limited by capital, because in mechanical engineering, the first problem you have, you are limited by capital. If you
Yeah.
cannot buy materials to construct a bicycle, you cannot proceed. But with programming, I needed just only VS Code and a program, just to know the knowledge. This opened a lot of doors for me. I was very excited, and that's how I got into programming. Up to now, I've started the company, and I'm doing this whole thing of programming.
So you said you started a company, because both of us have our companies.
Yes.
And tell us more about your company, for people to just understand what's going on. Or tell us
Yeah.
more about your company.
So
What did you
to
start, and why did you start the company?
yeah to I think that time after finishing the 2020, after finishing 2021, COVID was still on. So I continued doing a lot of programming during that time. 2020, I did a lot of PHP, I did JavaScript. So my aim was I can come back to Uganda because I was in Nairobi, and this person was somehow taking advantage of me. I wasn't like really paid on what I was like giving back, because as I've told you, I
Yeah.
shifted the amount we're earning about. I doubled the amount by maybe 300%, because he was earning like about 10,000. We went to about 30 to 50,000. So
Yeah.
per day, that is per day, and I was being paid very little like, compared to what I was earning, like about maybe 500 Kenyan money, and it wasn't like surviving. But what I did that time, I was like, if I could master the skills, and then if by the time I go back to Uganda, I'm so good in programming, and I see how I can just use this, start something small with this knowledge. So
Yeah.
fast forward, when 2021 I was there. 2022, I came back to Uganda. And I started from Banda. I started just like slowly. And what basically I was doing at this point, I was teaching, people different things. If I find you lack in Microsoft, I teach you Microsoft. If you are lacking in Adobe Photoshop, I teach you Adobe Photoshop. If you want programming, so almost I was teaching everything at that point as I was looking
Yes.
for clients. And
Yeah.
I remember I got my first client, which was a student at Chambogo, and I did him a PHP project, and it was also life changing. And I was paid
Yeah.
500. I was like, this is going to work out. This is going
Yes.
to work out. So after
Okay.
making that project, I proceeded, and I settled in Chireka, for that matter, for a specific period. And I started training. What I was doing, I at first actually had my first website. When I came back direct from Kenya, I had a website called JB Coding School. It is still online, JB Coding
Yeah.
School. And I was teaching programming, Canva, Photoshop, and everything like that. So
Yes.
after doing still 2022, after doing some things, and I see people are picking up, and one person asked me is that if you are going to make it big, I think you need to separate from JB Coding School, because you are limiting yourself to coding school or something. So I looked at it, I was like, oh yeah, that is like a good idea. I need to make a company that has a name that has no even my name in it or anything. So I started Desishub, just joking there. I was like, let me just like look for a short name
Yeah.
that people maybe can remember, or that is unique for search engine optimization. And
Yes.
I chose Desishub. And after choosing Desishub, we started by training. I was training, and my aim wasn't like I train students to graduate or they go somewhere. Though I taught some people who went away after later on, but my aim was I need to establish a software company. but I need people to be so good the way I am good. So I
Yes.
couldn't manage to get like developers. Hiring developers is really expensive. So my aim was, if I can get people who are serious, I teach them, and then they become so good so that they become part of Desishub. They be part of the company employee force, and
Yeah.
that's what I did. So actually, some of the team members I started with up to now, they are the ones who are working at Desishub as workers, like employees, and they are really good developers. Some of them I gave them bursary. I wasn't even minding about paying or anything. What I was focusing on was, can you really be good that you can develop software and all that. So
So
that's
quick
how this
question.
sub started, and right now I'm having about 6 good developers and about 13 students who are still in progress.
So quick question. Why so Daisy's Hub? Why did you choose Daisy's Hub? Why?
Yeah, so as I was just coming up with this whole thing, I think at first when you're just like creating a company, I wasn't even just like, I think there was this, I wanted something in full. If you look at this is how I registered it, it is just like this hub is a short form of something big, but it was something to do with design and development, enterprise. I had like this, I was trying to get this, you know, different engineering terms like development, enterprise, systems, and solutions. So I was like, can I create a name, a company name within these acronyms that can relate to people? So
Yeah.
I went to, I think that time, ChatGPT. Was it ChatGPT? I think that was something called Nemlix that time. I think
Yeah.
ChatGPT also came in during which time? I think it came in later on. So I was trying to fix, like, give me a name with these keywords, okay?
Yes.
And then it compiled and I got the sub. And then I just like to check online to see where this sub is or anything. And there was none. And then I was like, okay, I'm just like going to use these acronyms. Like this is, and then hub, as in hub. But the whole
Yeah.
thing was only like this is development and system engineering, and then the hub is just like the hub as a place. Yeah, so I
Okay.
came up with this is hub.
Okay. Cool.
Mm.
So we've talked a bit about you,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
JB.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's JB in full? People need to know your name. I mean, if
JB,
you're going to have more episodes in this podcast, they need to know you. So who are you? Your
uh,
name.
as in my full names.
Yeah, full name.
Yeah, John Baptist. The JB is John Baptist. I think I said at the beginning of the episode that I'm Moke John Baptist, and then like John Baptist, I broke it to JB because uh, people used to give me hard time calling me like Moke is not very easy to get in your head. So I was like, okay, let
Mhm.
me just roll with JB because at campus I became prominent with the JB. So I moved on with JB.
So you join the Baptist, but you baptize people with software.
Yeah,
How to
yeah.
code. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So now that people have gotten to know a bit about you,
yeah.
so I guess you might also now moderate and just ask me questions. So
Yes,
ask.
I really, really, really. Actually, first of all, I want to tell the people how I came to meet Martin. I think I just like used to see on LinkedIn, and for starters, by the way, I think this you need to know about it, but my wife is one of your students.
Sure. Okay. She
Yeah,
studied biomedical.
yeah, biomedical, yeah. So
Okay.
it was like, so we were discussing, and she understands me very well because I also taught her programming. And she's like, there is another guy, like, looks like your mentality, you are doing of things. There is this guy who moved biomedical from biomedical and moved into software. And that guy is also like almost like you. I was like, who is that person? And then showed me on LinkedIn. I was like, this is the guy. It's like, okay. So it's like, I think last year. Like, I'm going
Mhm.
to get in touch. I'm going to get in touch with him. I want to know about a people who are, when someone tells you about someone who is like you, like, okay, I want to understand how does he do his things. So
Yes.
this year, a chance presented itself, and she's the one actually who told me, like, did you know, um, Martin? Martin has a wife is called Lisa, and it's like, she's a friend actually. She follows you up, and it's like they have, I think, there is a meetup they have. You should join and see what is going on. I was like, oh, actually, this year my campaign is to really network at large. I didn't know that you were there. What I'm very sure, I knew Lisa was the one who is, chairing that meetup, but I didn't know that you were there. Then when I reached in the meetup, I found you presenting. I was like, wow, this is really interesting. I was looking
Mhm.
for Martin, to get knowing Martin and all that. So I found you there, presenting, and I was really happy. That's how I came to get to know you and to produce this whole thing of the podcast. I started from, I think, that meetup, because from that time we moved on, like chatting and progressing up to now. So I would really want to know, who is Martin? How did you do biomedical? How, like, I want to connect these pieces: biomedical, you, Zantu, and all these. How do these pieces come together to create Martin as a senior software developer and a CTO?
Okay, so Martin Tumwine is my name. For those of you who are watching this for the first time, who am I? I am a person who's very interested and passionate about technology and how technology can improve the lives of many.
Yeah,
So ever since I was a kid, I was very interested in doing research.
yeah.
I remember when I was young, I actually wanted to find the cure of HIV. You can imagine. Uh,
Very
so I started
optimistic.
reading about, yeah, I started reading about HIV. So interestingly, I actually wanted to be a doctor, not a software engineer. I wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to save people's lives. So I started reading books on HIV, viruses, bacteria, things like that. I was so interested in those things.
And that is which
And
time?
then
That is which time?
I was young. So let's say the early 2000s. I
Like,
was
that is like in
like
high school, campus, or what?
primary,
Primary?
primary school. Yes, primary school. Yes, like
Wow.
I was like, so let's say around 8 years you're old. So that
Mm.
whole curiosity thing. Still, when I was younger, still maybe okay, let's say 6 years. I had that curiosity about how things worked. So I was really interested in being a doctor. I think from 6 years old, and then at the same time, I also wanted to get to also understand my big. I had two big brother. I have two big brothers, and they brought home a video game console. So back then there was Nintendo, Sega Mega, and they had these cartridges, these things that you just slip in. And I was wondering, how do these cartridges work? How does the television work? And how do you play these games? I was always asking myself such questions. And then eventually, fast forward, so let's say in my senior five, 17 years of age, around that time, I met my first mentor. He taught me electronics. So up until then, in my mind, I knew I wanted to be a doctor. Then I get to senior five, and then I now see, and I'm like, okay, I think when I met this person and he taught me electronic design, like how to connect capacitors, resistors, and just make a circuit out of it, uh, I was like, it just unlocked a whole lot of possibilities for me. And I said that this is actually what I always wanted. This is how I can learn how microelectronic systems work. And then I remember I read an article. In this article, they were talking about how 80% of graduates cannot find any jobs here in Uganda. And I said, okay, I don't want to be among that statistic. So I said, how can I be different? So I looked at myself and I said, okay, if there's so many people who want to be doctors, why not go for my passion? Why not go what I'm actually in love with? And I said, I'm actually in love with electronics. And also, I just wanted to also understand also how software works. Because around my senior for around 16, 17 years old, I had a friend called Daniel. He was already trying to make an operating system, and I was like, wow, how is he trying to create his own operating system? He's talking about programming languages, and they're like, what does a programming language even mean? That was around
That is
20,
around what time?
2011, 2010,
Okay.
and I was like, how does he even do these things? And so during my A-level period, I was able to learn electronics all throughout, and I really enjoyed it, and I loved it. So somehow my course changed. I said, you know what, I'm no longer going the the other route of being a doctor. I'm falling more in love with electronic systems. And I started thinking about, okay, how do I merge my understanding of me trying to do research, but also mix it with electronic systems and also software systems. So that's how I said. So that's how I got into biomedical engineering, because it was a field that I felt like I could, be heavily impact. So I started doing biomedical engineering at Chambogo University, and then what happens is that I then begin learning how to uh, create software. So I had a cousin of mine who gave me a laptop, a really small laptop. It was really old. It would take like about 10 minutes to start. It was really slow and old. But it was through that I actually learned programming, got me on my programming journey. I started learning C++, how to code and things like that. So at university, there was internet. So I'd go almost every day, access internet, learn about all these programming languages, learn about all of this software. And then I would also download books and also read books, and I would just practice. I would just practice, practice, practice. And then I started making my own small calculator, in C++, or making it like a console application, but a calculator in that shape or form. And that's how the programming journey started. And when I graduated, I I said I don't think I want to be a biomedical engineer, because I remember during my internship, I did my intern at Mengo Hospital, but I never really enjoyed it. It was more like go repair, come home, go repair. Yes, I learned a lot in terms of how certain things work, but I really wasn't going to be happy around it. But with software engineering, I knew that there are always challenges, and I just love those challenges. I just love getting into those challenges and just trying to fix things. And I love that so much. So I said, you know what, I'm going that direction. And I started then doing, freelance work for people here and there. And then now how we now got here right now. So I run a company called Zantu, and how the name came about, Zantu. So I had this idea that like I want to do something for people, something that's going to improve people's lives. So that's how Zantu came into play, Zavantu, for the people. So that's how Zantu is right now. And over the years, I also got another mentor who taught me software engineering around the time of COVID. He taught me proper software engineering, how to think very critically, around the whole software bit. And then that also opened up more doors opportunity for me. Then I started now working with remote teams from other countries, Germany, for example. And it became so interesting. And I said, you know what, I'm now going to double down and create a company, and it'll be called Zantu, and want to create software. But now, because the barrier to entry is really small, right? Anybody can now begin learning how to code. I normally say this joke, but even people's dogs also nowadays learn how to code as well. But the barrier to entry is really small, and now we have all of these people who are competing. So people are competing quite a bit. So I said, how do I differentiate myself? So I started getting into consultancy, and then I jumped out of that and I said, I see there's a problem with technology teams in terms of having a technology leader, people who are able to lead teams, especially around the technology aspect. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and create a new service called CTO as a service, which is Chief Technology Officer as a Service, where we come into your organization, understand the business processes, understand what's going on. So if you're struggling to get work done and your team probably is not that well experienced, I can come in and say, okay, how do I mentor the team to make sure that they actually write good quality code? If you're struggling maybe to maintain your team and you have a high turnover rate, how do I come in and probably help with that and create a culture where people actually enjoy loving, so enjoy working at that specific workplace? So those are all the questions that I said thinking about, and I said, okay, if I was in that position, also I would also think about that. So that's how City as a Service came about, and that's what now we are doing. So that is just a brief of my whole journey right now. So just answer your question. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really, really good. Like, I think we have a lot of things in common. We have a lot of things in common. Uh, the love of solving challenges, like, because exactly what you faced, like, after doing agro-processing, in fact, I was among the top three in class, and everyone was calling me the head of department, and everyone was calling me, like, they told me you are into the software, and everyone was very concerned, like, how do you join this whole new career, and how are you going to survive in that career, you know?
Yeah.
But what I just came to know is, with programming, as you said, I think most people who they, as you said, the barrier to entry is less. People try to get into programming, but early alone, what I noticed is there is no proper mentors into this space. When it comes to programming, I think one of the things with the highest dropout rate is programming. Like, most people try to get into programming quickly enough. After like 1 month or 2 months, they cannot survive in the space. Most of them drop
Mm.
out, and this is one of the reasons, actually, because I think one of the gifts I have, to be sincere, is sharing and explaining, really breaking down complicated things into, like,
Yeah.
that is one of my strengths. I can explain and I love building. Those are like two big things. And
Yeah.
putting those together, that's why it's like it is very easy to put for me a team and an academy to train them. And the fact that I love building, so I teach them while building. You
Yeah.
know, that's
Exactly.
why I normally call this up. We say we leverage. Our motto is like we leverage technology, and like the way you see a football player is enjoying playing football, at the same time is making money. If you can meet that sport in your business, I think it is the most nice sport ever, because that is like the sport I've been looking at. I like teaching, explaining, and building things. So I just combine those two. I build
Yeah.
projects, but as I'm showing others how I'm building it, so that's why we have managed to reach, I think, this space because of those two things.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mm,
So at that, I'm looking at our time, and I think our time is fast spent.
yeah,
But at least for our first episode, maybe the viewers they just get to know a bit about us,
yeah,
about how we got into this journey. And for those of you out there who are thinking about software engineering or getting into anything that you want to get into, at the end of the day, I would say that for me, for my case, it's good when you have the passion for it, but also have the discipline for it. Because what happens when you have the passion for it and then you're actually struggling? So the idea is to also just create a balance. So I remember there have been periods where I I was so passionate about software engineering that I totally forgot that I needed to think about how do I actually earn an income as well. And that's the trap I see a lot of software engineers get into.
yeah,
But not just software engineers, a lot of other people in also in other fields. They get so passionate about what they're doing, but they also forget about the business aspect or the aspect about the longevity, that sustainability. Is it
yeah,
sustainable enough to actually get there? And yes, there have been success stories for those who have been very passionate. But the question is, if you're looking at the rate of those success stories, it's quite low. And the idea is that with the more risk, of course, you get a much bigger reward in a sense. So the idea is you need to balance it out. So for those of you, if I'm to go back in time, I think what I would do is I would have taken on a job at a certain point in time, a software engineering job, rather than uh, push just build my own, products. That way, I would have maybe learned faster, and I probably would have learned a lot more much faster, and probably I would be slightly a bit ahead from where I am right now. So these are some of my mistakes that I made. So for those of you out there who are listening to this or even watching this, I'll just advise that you try to balance. You have your passion for something, but you also need to also think about the your survival as well. So sometimes you might delay yourself years simply because you probably didn't build a network and you segregated yourself away because of your passion. So we need to be very careful as African or wherever you are in the world. Just think about that aspect. That at the end of the day, we want this podcast to be something that people can learn from, and something that can also impact people worldwide as
Yeah.
well. I don't know if you have anything, any learnings from for your
Yes.
case, Jay.
From my case, I have a lot of things I have to advise these people because the journey I've gone through, probably I don't want someone to really go through it. You have talked about two good points. Really, if you, I want to just to see, like, I think the big problem I'm just going to talk about or to think about is one, you really need to work around to get a mentor. I think the one problem I'm seeing high rate of dropout from coding is if you're not having an actual person to mentor you, you are most likely to spend time, waste more time, because
Yeah,
most of the kids I've taught at Desishub, they have learned. You can't believe someone can learn from HTML up to maybe React, even learning the all programming within less than 6 months. I normally see people
yeah,
going to campus, they do degree, they finish their degree, and they spend even one more year teaching themselves. And when
yeah,
they come, they still don't know any concept, or they can't do anything that is tangible. But
exactly.
you looking for where, if for instance, if you can't find someone who is really good at coding, even if he's not going to pay you or anything, but he can be your mentor. The person
Yeah,
you can face and sort of for you problems, that is very important, very important.
yeah,
Eh,
exactly.
like you need to get someone to help you out, and that's why I did this whole YouTube channel, the WhatsApp. Like most of the time, I just do it in mentoring, like trying to help those young developers to really not waste time. You can waste a lot of time, like 8 months studying JavaScript that would have taken you only 1 month, and then you
Yeah,
do learn to the job. Then another thing is, I would say that you do reverse engineering, because jobs for tech are not like jobs for other people, whereby people look at your books, like they look at your papers, like you did software engineering in a college or in a university. Software is very different. People look at what you are able to build or what you are able to present, as well as the clients. You cannot show them your papers. They simply want, can you solve their problem? That is the most important thing. So what I would tell the people who are getting into this one, if for instance you wanted a job to work at Microsoft, you simply go and look at the job description and reverse engineer everything they need at the job. So for instance, if you went at Microsoft, they want you to be knowing React, MongoDB, MySQL. Simply reverse engineer. Can you do a project that uses that same tech stack, rather than just going and study randomly things and then you come to ask for a job and they want the specific technology or tech stack, and you find that what
yeah,
you studied was something different. So you can't reverse engineer your job. Simply go and search for the job, and when you get a job, look at what do they need. So when you come to JB or you come to Martin, you're like, okay, I'm trying to get into this tech stack. I've seen most people falling into a trap of being good at everything. You ask a person in 1 year, he has done all the technologies. He has done machine learning, Python, Kotlin. He has done everything. And then you're like, okay, you show me a complete project in any of your choice of your programming languages, and they don't have anything to show. They don't have any project. And instead, they would have concentrated on a particular tech stack to get you started. In fact, after
Exactly.
learning one tech stack, you can easily learn others. So what I would just say is, can you just like reverse engineer your job? They go and look at a particular job on LinkedIn or with all those job sites and look at the technologies they have. So even when you're watching a tutorial, can you get a tutorial that is building a project particular in the tech stack? And that's why I would just like say to a person who is getting into this, because it took me time. I learned almost a lot of things to come to concentrate what I'm doing right now. I did a lot of things that I'm not using, but I would say it is very easy to reverse engineer your job.
Sure.
Mm.
Okay. Our time is fast spent, JB.
Yeah, yeah,
So right now, today we have come to the end of our first episode.
yeah.
So in case any of you people out there who are watching this have any experience and you want to share something, just comment in the comment section. If you love what we are talking about, be sure to hit the subscribe button and then be notified next time for more episodes.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
also
yeah.
intend to interview a number of people as well out there who have maybe tech products or just entrepreneurs in general. And yeah, and basically we just want to just learn from each other and see what we can do better.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think
That's it for the
it
first.
has been really nice, and to those ones who are just like watching us from all the places, we love talking about tech. If you have anything, any product you want us to review, if you just like you have any question or you would want us to tackle a particular topic in depth like AI and all these, we are going to be sharing on this platform. We are going to be having a lot of talks, and everyone is welcome. If you have really good ideas, this is our first episode and it has been really good to share with you, Martin.
All right. Take care, JB.
Take care.